Go.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name's Todd O'Hare. I'm the president and CEO of the Montana Chamber of Commerce, and we started doing these career webinars last spring in an attempt to try to bring some more awareness to students about the wide variety of careers that are available to them, some that require a four-year college education and some that don't. There's opportunities for a wide swath of students and the interests that they have. And I am particularly someone that's very passionate about career and technical education. I graduated from Park High School over in Livingston and was a product of the VOAG and the FFA organizations there. And so all the career and technical education sort of aspects of education have got a real strong soft spot for me, and I'm a big fan of those. And so I'm pleased here today to introduce the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Elsie Arntzen. Elsie and I are good friends, and I think since I've started here at the Montana Chamber of Commerce, we've doubled up on our efforts to coordinate better with the Office of Public Instruction. And Elsie also is a fan of career and technical education, and she's a great partner for us. And so it's a real honor to have her here to kick off our fall series of career awareness, to try to bring some additional light to the various careers that students can pursue after they graduate high school. And so with that, Superintendent Arntzen, thank you for joining us, and I turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Todd, and to all that are on this call. I appreciate you. This is about making sure that our vision and it's a partnership in a pandemic, but it's been before the pandemic, and it's going to go past when we all are a healthy Montana. But partnering with businesses, partnering with private industry, whether it's a mom and pop shop or whether it is something that is very large, we want to make sure that you students have an opportunity to be able to be there and be part of their team. So this is a big shout out to Go Team Montana right now. So I was a 5th grade school teacher in Billings. 10 and 11-year-olds are the salt of the earth. You know, they remember a little bit about multiplication and division, but mostly it's about the relationships that were sprouted and begun on that recess field, or else within anything that we could do with student engagement. And now middle school, and I really am a huge fan of middle school. To me, middle school is where that engagement must be strengthened even more. So really proud that Perkins Plan, which is a federal plan that comes into the state, each state gets to craft it a little bit differently. We brought a big team together. Dollars flow then from the federal government into the Office of Public Instruction, and they allowed for flexibilities for career awareness into middle school to keep that engagement happening then. So as this is Career Awareness Month and should be going on every single day of every single month of every single year, we need to make sure that we are very robust in our messaging. Then, so I taught 23 years 5th graders, and was a legislator, House and Senate out of Billings, taught in the same place where I legislated, which is really, really passionate. You know, it was the fringe edge of Billings. So I got on my 4-wheeler and went door to door, even in weather. You know, and in Montana right now, we're experiencing some really interesting cold weather. But to me, visiting with people and extending that partnership from government, being a representative, to now in my role as state superintendent, only 11 states elect my position. I'm proud to have that badge of approval by the voters, and 6 states elect by party. Some of you might want to say, well, why should education be political? It shouldn't. You may not be a Republican, you may not be an independent or a Democrat. You know, you may not have formed where you want to be at that point. And my mother taught me, you work with the issues to see exactly what it is that you would like to see go forward for yourself, for your family, your community, and of course for our state and nation. So very proud that I'm part of this. And when I got in, I came up with 4 great initiatives. The first one is Montana Hope, which is all about students. It's about the kids that are listening here. It's making sure they have a pathway through school in a healthy environment. Yes, it is about awareing yourself, getting yourself all getting that ability to understand who you might be. And it isn't just middle school, it's from elementary all the way through. And we want to make sure that, you know, your behaviors allow you to be healthy. It's not just about being COVID and washing hands and social distancing. These are at-risk behaviors that are there. And in Montana, you know, we try them, we see them, but we want to make sure that everyone's healthy. So Montana Hope. Then I've got Montana Teach. I license 20,000 teachers. I license very few career technical teachers. We need to grow more of them. Those are the ones that embrace you with all that understanding of what's out there after you leave high school. But let's talk about when you're working in high school and those creative team ideas that you can with youth entrepreneurs. Let's make sure that that's an idea back into middle school again. Not just one day where a family member comes in and says, this is what I do for a living, this is what you could do. Let's talk about military. There's an opportunity. 1 in 10 serves in military right now, severed or is currently serving or has served. We are a nation of warriors in Montana, especially in our indigenous populations. So then Montana Learn is next. Montana Learn is what you're doing right now. That's putting skills in front of you in career technical education to make sure that you are healthy in hope. Your teacher understands and is teaching you these skills. You are learning all of these skills. And that leads it to the last one, the fourth one, the most important one, that our partnership with the Chamber and private industries, it's about Montana Ready. Getting you ready from the time you enter public school to the time you exit, you're ready. Not only are you ready in a healthy manner, in a healthy body and spirit for Montana Hope, but you've been given skills and been embraced by your teachers, all of your teachers along the way, especially your career technical education teacher, to allow you then to enter into an adulthood. That means then you go back and you build your community, you build your family, and you help build our great state of Montana. We want to make sure that you have all of these opportunities. So those are my passions. I've been working diligently with those, and I want to use a different pronoun because it's about a we. I can't do this by myself. I can do this with the Chamber, but I need these community members as well. So that's the business partnership across the state that we need to embrace. It could be someone who could be a member for the Chamber, but maybe not. Maybe it's not part of that. But I want to ask you as students, please initiate this. Go into that grocery store. Go into that candy or that ice cream shop or that tire shop. Go into that John Deere dealership. Go into any of those individual places and say, what's a job look like here? Take the initiative right then and there because it's your future that you are getting prepared for. No one's going to do this for you. One of the things that, and Matt, you told me this when we were on another call with career technical educators last week, that the propensity for kids that are in high school to have a job and go to high school, it's decreasing. In other words, almost everybody had a job in high school, starting from middle school on up. That's not the way it is anymore. For some reason, I don't have kids employed. And it's not just the kid that's employed to do that push the broom thing. It's learning what the skill is, not just showing up on time, but learning what the business skills could be to be owning your own business or being part of that great team when you're there, whatever team that might be. You know, Montana businesses, we're a small business state where there might be 10 people in that entire framework. You could be 1 of 10. 1 in 10 means then that you are building something bigger so that maybe you're going to be 1 in 20 in the next 5 years, or maybe 1 in 100. Maybe you have that innovative idea that you're going to be the one that's going to build it for the entire nation or industry. We can't build students for today. We build students in public education for tomorrow. That's where the partnership is so needed. So with that, If there's any questions, Matt, if you'd like to lead us anywhere, or Todd, if you have anything that you would like to share other than that, I'm all in. I'm all in on building teachers. I'm all in on building students, and all building your opportunities for you to live a very healthy lifestyle to make Montana proud.
Hey, Elsie, I've got a question for you. My kids, I've got kind of a wide spectrum of between two of my three kids. My youngest is 12, and my middle child is 15, and then my oldest is a medical student in Portland. My middle son, he has no intention of going on to college. He doesn't want to go to college. He doesn't have the academic interest to pursue college at all. Explain to us kind of what your thought process was as far as your desire for being a teacher, right? I mean, this is kind of your first and foremost passion, is that of being a teacher, and that's part of why you're here today. What were some of the things when you were younger that kind of led you down the path of deciding to pursue a teaching degree?
Thank you for that. And teaching is a profession, and it's a license that you get with a seal of Montana on it, and it's proud. Teachers are very proud to wear that. But I came in a different path. I went to college right out of high school, and it was Billings West High. And we had one of the largest graduating classes. Can you imagine 750 in a graduating class? Our entire graduating senior class at the state level is about 10,000. 700 is a large class. And I went on and I got a degree in economics, in business economics from the University of Montana. That's a shout out to Go Grizz. And I was ready to go into business. I was ready to understand the forecasting in economics, supply and demand. I really looked to see what those market indicators are and put that business background to use. Well, then had a family. And as a family, as a stay-at-home mom, I was in the school so much as a PTA president. I could put on the best carnival that anybody could ever do. And I gave, so many kudos to teachers because they work really hard and diligent hours. But then I decided with my family, since I'm in the building so much, why don't I join the ranks of being a teacher? And at that time, and I'm an overachiever, that A plus is about, that I'm an A plus, double A's type of personality. So I had more credits from my first, graduated with honors from the University of Montana. None of my credits would transfer. So 10 years later, I became a teacher. I had to take everything over again. Every single class I had to take again, even though it was duplicative. And it cost me double to be able to do that. And there was no loan forgiveness at that time. So when I became a legislator then, being a teacher and a legislator, we made that path so much better so that it's not a duration of time. If you are banked going to the university system, those hours should be able to be banked going toward another degree. And that's one of the things I'm really proud of helping implement. And being a teacher then, I tell you, I thought I knew it all because I was, having a mom and a family and everything else. I came in with a teacher that had gone on psych leave and had a very challenging pathway. And it was March 3rd. I'll never forget it. March 3rd, I didn't know what to do. I had a class of students that really had a teacher that was vacant because of mental illness. And mental illness is really, it's a horrible thing, and it impacts all of our families across our state, and it impacts the teaching profession as well as any profession. And so I came into this classroom, and it was such an education for me. It wasn't book learning. I had to think on my feet. And I think that's what makes me, in my role as state superintendent, of trying to solve, solutions, budget solutions. I'm a $2.3 billion budget. 40% of every tax dollar goes to public education. So making those critical decisions, on your tiptoes, making sure that you're nimble and getting that answer as soon and as possible. And it has to be with fidelity because you just can't make things up. You got to make sure that you're spot on. So all of these things have led me to where I'm at this point. But that teaching ability gave me the opportunity to lead in the legislature and now lead at the state level as being one of the 5 constitutional officers. But it is that personality. And not all people can be a teacher, just like not all people can be a business owner. And not all people, can be that student either in college. That's why career technical education is so important, because it isn't just a pathway to college. You should have that ability to be that entrepreneur. You should have that ability to join that team at that and be a tire technician or any kind of a group part that you might be. And it might be in a nonprofit world, something that amends and augments our communities across our state, that improves life for Montana.
Elsie, that was great. This is Matt. I'm going to chime in. I've got a question for you.
Sure.
We have some 8th graders as well watching from Hobson, Montana. And one of the questions that's come up on previous career awareness webinars is, how do you choose a mentor?
Thank you for that. I believe if I just look on my own reflection, sometimes a mentor is someone who looks just like you, thinks just like you, acts just like you. But I'm going to challenge everyone out there. You need a mentor that is opposite. Because right now, when you're forming your opinions and you're forming your ideas, you need that discourse. You need that cognitive dissonance in your head to say why your path is the best path. And that mentor and it's not an argument, it's not a discussion that is going to lead down in a negative consequence, but it is a discussion that you can bounce off your ideas to. And pick a mentor then that, may look different than you, may act different than you. And that way, you've got a better round opinion of what your next step is going to be. And so let's say you're in school and you've got a teacher that maybe you don't understand math. That calculus or that geometry just isn't it, or that algebra isn't clicking. And you can hardly wait to get out of that class. But maybe that teacher is the right mentor for you, because that teacher thinks different. That individual, as that adult, is looking at things uniquely than you. That's going to help guide you down that path stronger. Your peer group is also part of your mentor group, and that's where you get it. I mean, that's good to have those friends that, are friends, but also reach outside that friend group. And maybe you're going to talk to somebody that, doesn't entertain anything that looks like you or talks like you. Engage them, because if you engage them, then maybe they're just waiting for you in that peer group, whether it's someone of your same age or a little older or a little bit younger. And you can help mentor them along that process. So it's not just a single avenue. It's a two-way street in this mentorship. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, that's great, Elsie. Next question is for the students that are on watching it from their respective classrooms today and the ones that will watch once we've got this recorded. You've talked about a lot of different career pathways. Where would you direct them to go if they're still undecided on what their interests might be, or what electives or extracurriculars or programs or clubs that they might want to get into that will allow them to learn more about the opportunities after high school?
Excellent. I think the number one thing is you got to take a self-inventory. Take an inventory of yourself. And even as, and I did this with my 5th graders, 10 and 11-year-olds, what are your strengths? And be honest, because sometimes, and I had this with an exercise with a mirror. So look in that mirror and reflect on, who are you? Why are you? And be real critical of yourself. Say, yes, I'm really good at this. No, I stink at that. And when you know who you are, then you'll be able to understand what it is you want to do. But I'm going to also ask this of these kids. Don't shut the door. Don't shut the door. And if you do have a propensity over to go one way, Always look to the other side. What is it that you could do? Don't say, just because my family is going to tell me to do this, or my dad's always done this, or my aunt and uncle has always done this. Think bigger. We would have never have gotten to the moon. And seriously, the moon, that was so many years ago. That was decades ago. We need to go to Mars. We already are on Mars with artificial intelligence. But let's get people past where we are right now. And that means you got to think uncomfortable. I used the word cognitive dissonance before. That's an economic term. That means that you're unsure of yourself. You don't really know what's going on. You don't trust what's going on. That cognitive dissonance is what's going to lead you to that choice factor. If you have the opportunity to make choice, then you make the right one based on what you know, but be creative. Don't ever say no to yourself. But also, I talked about being careful and at-risk behavior. Sometimes our choices that we make when we're young, we don't look all the way around and see what the cause might and the cause action might happen with it. The unintended consequences. Youth in Montana, you're our treasure. We're not growing many of you. We need to keep you here, not just keep you in Montana, not just tether you to your community. I don't ever want that. But you need to have as many opportunities as possible. And it begins with you. It begins with someone believing in you, and that's got to be you first.
That was great, Elsie. Thank you very much. You alluded to it when you mentioned Mars and our artificial intelligence, and you and I have been on panels together quite recently talking about the future of work. And I have a 6-year-old and a 6th grader and an 8th grader, and technology has invaded every aspect of invaded is the wrong word, sorry, but has taken over a lot of the aspects of their lives. When we think about including technology into whatever discipline or career choice that's going forward, how would you encourage the kids now to be exploring these things, not only in the confines of the classroom? You mentioned going into the businesses as well, but what outside of the walls, how would you encourage technology to be used as they determine what it is they'd like to do?
Excellent. And don't ever take technology for granted. You know, I pick up my cell phone. It's my family. I mean, it connects me to my family, it connects me to my business here at the OPI. It connects me to the weather, it connects me to everything. But the problem is sometimes I look at this and I'm thinking, how does it work? I don't know how it works. And then I'm afraid of maybe pushing this button or that button. Don't be afraid. Ask the questions of how does it work? Why is it working? Is it just connecting somehow? Figure out that connection, because we know how we use it, but we don't know the mechanism in front of it. Because kids that are on this and the students that are listening today and those that are going to be in your seats next year, they're going to be creating something different here. And maybe it's going to look a whole lot different. Maybe it's going to be bio. We don't know what it's going to be. We don't create for today, we create for tomorrow. But we have to ask why. We have to ask, how did it get here? We just can't assume that it's the right thing, that we're going to have our cell phone and it's going to be ready to go. And why I don't have bandwidth and everything else. I need the kids today to ask, how did I get here? What's the next step? Where are we going to go with this next? And everything is technology. Matt, you're spot on. Everything is technology. And because we are in COVID right now, look at where education is. I mean, my goodness, I'm talking on a flat screen where we could be in person together, and we're not. But we are still together in our communication, and those words matter. But we need to have you think bigger than today. What is school going to look like next year? What's school going to look like in 5 years? What is education globally going to look like? Are you going to be getting on one of these chats to somebody that's in Europe or in Asia and doing your math lesson with somebody who doesn't sit next to you, but somebody who is way away from you? I mean, what is education going to be? I'm going to give this for homework. That's going to be your responsibility. I'm balancing right now, and we're on that frontier verge, just like we're talking about going to the moon and going to Mars. You are in charge of that next frontier. Don't be afraid of it. Ask those questions. There's not one question that's not smart. There's not one question that shouldn't be embraced by a teacher. So ask those questions.
The next frontier, Elsie, that's a great way to put it. We're moving, I think we've seen this through being forced into a distance learning model, moving from the industrial age to the information age. A lot of you students that are listening here, there's technologies that haven't even been discovered or invented yet that you're going to be asked to build things with, right? And Elsie, this is going to be a real tough one. I'm sorry, this is not a softball. As a leader in education, how do you train kids for technologies that haven't yet been invented?
I think we're all given gifts. And everyone, when you do, like I said, as I taught my fifth graders, reflect in that mirror on who you are. You're all given different strengths, and you're all given different gifts. So what you have to do is you have to look at that gift, and you have to open it up, and you have to say, okay, where am I going to go and how am I going to go? You're 10 years old and someone said, what are you going to be when you grow up? And they may have asked this question when you're 6. And that changes throughout your timeline. But if you do put technology into that, what should that look like in 5 years? What do you want it to do? I bet we can devise the path to get there if you say, this is what I envision. So I need students to be visionaries. And as teachers right now, because we have a odd system, it used to be bells and cells. I'll say this. You went into a box classroom. The bell rang, you sat down. The bell rang, you got up and you left. The bell rang again, you were in another box, right? The bells and cells. We're out of that now. Think of what we can do because we're not scripted by a box. And I'm all in on being creative. I don't want anybody ever to say no. And I think Matt, on one of our panels, when I was talking to someone in authority from the Department of Ed, they said, give me a reason to say yes. And students and teachers, ask your administrators, give them the reason to say yes. And when you go into that private entity and you say, hey, what's it like to work here? Ask them, what skills do you want? How do you want me to say yes to be an employee for you? And ask them if they just say, I just want you to show up on time. Say, what do you mean by that? What do you mean show up on time? Be really inquisitive. Ask the questions. I think the next generation of kids are going to be the ones asking us as adults questions rather than it being the other way around in bells and cells where the teachers had all they had all the questions of the students. Students, you've got the answers. We just got to help you find them.
That's great, Elsie. In that, give me a reason to say yes. The follow-up from that was Dave Smith and the Montana Contractors Association talking about the classroom grants that they have. That was a follow-up conversation. So educators out there are a lot of pools and pockets of money where business and industry are looking to further support the education in the classrooms and the teachers. Elsie, you touched on it in your previous answer, but I have a question here from Mandy Wichman in Hobson. What are 3 things you think are the most important for middle schoolers? She's got a classroom of 8th graders there, that they should do now to help them be successful during and after high school.
Excellent. Number 1, I know I'm going to put my 5th grade teacher hat on. It's engagement. Kids, show up at school. But, in our world that we're in right now, that means being engaged. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're in attendance in that classroom because it's all different across, our 821 school buildings right now. It's different. It looks totally different. And we don't know what the virus is going to be doing. So I need you to be engaged. And engaged means you can independently be engaged. But you know what? I'm going to ask of you, do it with a team. If you can have team skills, Like I said, we're small business minded in Montana. A team of 10 or a team of 50 or 25 or any of those, that communication skills between a team, I believe, is what an employer also is asking. And that communication means not that you speak well, not that you're using all these big words, and not that you're using words that might be, so scripted toward an industry, but words that mean I'm willing, I want to hear more, I want to work together. And I think those right there can help everything. So the big one is engagement. First yourself, show up. By showing up, show up. Show up could be virtual, show up could be anything. Teamwork, team engagement. I think that's it. And you know what? Ask questions. Ask those questions, like I said in the previous discussion. If you ask questions, that's coming back to that answer. And if an adult or your peer doesn't have the answer, then you find it. Right now, you can Google search anything. You can find anything. And it's up to you then to determine if it's the right answer. Because right now, one isn't going to work it. If you're going to be the leaders of our future, and you're going to go to that next frontier in technology and in entrepreneurship, you got to seek the right answer. And what's right for you might be wrong for somebody else. But it's just that you've got to be an innovator. And does that mean you have to be really bold and be aggressive? No. You could be that introvert still and have those conversations. You don't have to be that one that's way out there flashy. But if you're sincere with your engagement, then I firmly believe that that recognition will be there. The other part I want to add to this is don't give up. If someone tells you no, you find a yes. If someone says, that's not the greatest idea, you stand there with your Montana feet firmly planted and you say, this is why. This is why. Because if we run from something, we're never, ever going to go forward in our future. So you gotta, we're Montanans for a reason. And I firmly believe from Hobson or anywhere else, if we stand up to who we are and who we were, we know who we're going to be.
That's great. That's great advice, Elsie. Thank you very much. I know you were talking about it, and I've got that graphic just to share if you would like to talk a little bit more about your Hope, Teach, Learn, and Ready as a way to articulate it a little bit more and to show it to the kids if you'd like. I'm not sure if everyone has seen it or not, but I thought, I was looking at it while you were talking here, and I think just as a way to re-emphasize what it was that you were saying around the Hope, Teach, Learn, and Ready. Would you mind giving us just a summary or a conclusion one more time about those?
Sure. So you can see it with Hope. And, we branded these, and whole child means, for teachers, we get that. In other words, you come in, you need nutrition, you need to have, you need to have your body fed, you need to have your mind fed, and you need to also come from in a safe environment to a very safe environment. And, I open up with suicide prevention. I know I got kids on the line here. And, understanding in that peer-to-peer look. And we've done a lot of work here at the agency because adults can only do so much. You as a student and knowing if this person is thinking or not thinking where they need to be, you need to help in a manner, shape, or form to get them the help that they might need. And that in suicide prevention is it. Montana is still at the bottom of the barrel with that. Montana Teach, like I said, we license teachers here. And I put that Montana seal on it. And plus my name is on the line. And I'm a fourth generation Montanan, and I believe firmly in that name having meaning. So if my name goes on a teacher's license, I want to make sure it's the best teacher for you. That means when they get in the door and they have those years of experience that they have gained, that they have professional development to get them to where they need to be. Retaining our teachers, recruiting the best, feel like, I'm in the Army or in the Navy, as my brothers were, to make sure that we have a pipeline. And teaching is part of career technical education. It doesn't necessarily stand for the T in CTE, but definitely we need teachers. And then learn. I have 12 teaching and learning standards. At your level in the classroom, you might get a book or you might get a syllabus when you're online right now. All of that dresses those standards. So there's only 12 teaching and learning that I work through. They're the floor. The curriculum is built upon it at the local level. I am a local control gal. I believe what's taught in Hobson or what's taught in Kalispell or in Hardin should be what is done by their board of trustees in a local control. But I do the standards and then everything else is amended onto that. And everything comes down to Montana Ready. Do you notice I put community first? And then it's college and career. Some simple stats. We graduate about 10,000 kids every year. 40% of those are going to go on to college. Here's a frightening stat. 40% of those that go on to college drop out that first semester. If you do the simple math, 60% don't even go to college. So what are we doing here? We need a pipeline for college, for sure. But it's when you go to college, I think, is part of it. You don't have to go right away. And there's 2-year colleges that can get you to 4-year, or just 2 years that are going to get you. But why don't you go to that employer? Because that employer also has methodologies to get you trained and get you into school. There's multiple college pathways once you open that private sector door and get into an employer. They will help you form that pathway to college. So we have a unit at the Office of Public Instruction that is bright and shiny, and it has got great people in it that were there some before, but I've got new innovative people with a new look on career technical education, because we have to build kids for tomorrow. Like I said before, we can't just churn out. You can't keep doing the same thing and getting different results, right? You've got to change things up. That's what I've done. That's my commitment. And I'm all in on student engagement and making sure that healthy communities are there for our future.
Elsie, that was great. And I think it's a great segue into the importance of the partnership with the business community and why the Montana Chamber of Commerce is doing this. And I know Todd has a couple of thoughts, and then maybe he can help us wrap it up.
Well, thanks again, Superintendent Arntzen, for joining us here today and kicking off our fall career awareness piece. One of the things that we know from the business community side of things is that there is a shortage of skilled and quality workers in the workforce. And I don't think that's just a problem with the education community. I think that there's a business problem here as well. And I think as the business community, it's our job to do a better job of working with the schools and with your administration to look for those sort of opportunities so that we can interact with students on a more regular basis and provide them with some real opportunities and some different alternatives that they might want to pursue when they finish with high school. And it can't start early enough. And one of the key pieces that I picked up from the beginning of your presentation was about was best summed up as kind of passion, right? I mean, you talked about your decision to go on to college, and you started out in business, then you ended up in teaching, and you ultimately chose a path that you were passionate about, something that you really cared. And I think that's one of the things that we're really trying to stress to students as well, is that try to identify your passion, and then the business community needs to come in and work closely with education to provide those sort of opportunities. And so I look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to reach into high schools and middle schools and talk about where the business community can do a better job of aligning with you and to try to provide those sort of opportunities for students. So I'll kick it to you for any sort of final thoughts that you might have, Elsie.
Well, thank you. And I'm not going to give anybody a test here except for Todd. So after any presentation in education, you think, oh my gosh, now what's coming next? So no, nobody gets a test on this. I don't believe in that. I'm just going to say it bluntly. I don't believe that statewide test at the very end of whatever year you're taking in school is a recognition of your success as a student, nor the recognition of the success as a teacher. So we're working really hard to amend that federal law, because it's a mandate to have that test. But it doesn't show growth and it doesn't show success. So I'll just take that as a segue. But you do talk about passion. But one of the things that I've learned when I was in business, because I was in business before I became a teacher and a mom and all that, I started here and then I grew it to here. And then my career in education started here and then I grew it to the state superintendent. One of the things that I want to leave with is that passion is the gas in the vehicle. But you have to recognize you're not going to get and own the company in the beginning. You're not going to be state superintendent. I started as a substitute teacher to get all the way to where I'm at this point. There is a move that you can do within any business model to get to the final pinnacle. And I'm not done yet. I mean, I know, I'm the highest elected female in the state of Montana. And I know that I'm one of the 5 constitutional officers. And I'm not done yet. That's not saying I want to be anything else. But I know that my passion, that gas in that vehicle, drives me. It drives me to do better every single day. And I know what I'm doing better. I know I'm helping you students have a better, brighter pathway in that partnership in your community, in that partnership for Montana. So don't ever give up. There's one thing I can also say, don't ever give up. Every day is unique. Every day is different. But you also are so unique. We need you. We need you to continue being healthy in this pandemic and even past that. We need you to be a part of our communities in Montana, wherever you choose to live. And we also want you to be part of this great nation that we have. We can't ever leave that out. We are all working together here to make America even greater than ever before. And that's that high part that you keep reaching to. So start where you are, being engaged in your classroom, being engaged in your family, in your community. Talk to your peers, and then your teachers, and then your community, and keep thinking higher every single day, because the final frontier isn't here yet. It's going to be your grandchildren that are going to be the next role. So if we keep building on this, how can Montana lose? We can't. Montana's going to gain. Not only that, as I said, our nation as well. So great opportunity again. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you very much, Todd. I'm all in on partnerships. I pushed my chips in, okay? We're going to continue working together. Thank you all. Please stay well.